This video is sponsored by MITTDEKKHOTELL. More about them later. About a month ago, I test drove the Mercedes EQS 53 AMG 4MATIC Plus here on the channel. The EQS version with the most performance, the most power, top of the line AMG with four-wheel drive, the most gadgets, and overall a very good product, a very good EV even, and a very good mode of transportation. But I came away from that car with mixed feelings because it was a very expensive car. In my opinion, it also was lacking in a few key areas. So today's big question is, how does the EQS 450 with rear wheel drive, the entry-level version of the EQS, stack up in my opinion? Is it good? Is it bad? And at 400,000 kroners, about 40,000 euros less than that 53 AMG 4MATIC Plus, does it make more sense? Since I already test drove the EQS about a month ago and made a very detailed review on that 53 AMG 4MATIC Plus, I'm not going to dive into all the details about the interior and the infotainment system and all of the specs. If you want to check that out, I will link that video in the description box down below. But I'm going to show you guys, on screen now, the most important things about this car. So this is the entry-level version with rear wheel drive, 333 horsepower, 0 to 100 kilometers an hour in 6.2 seconds. So it's not very fast. But what's important here is you're getting that same 107.8 kilowatt hour battery pack that is usable capacity as in every other EQS on the market. So this being only rear wheel drive has a WLTP rated range of 781 kilometers, which is just, well, amazing. You get the same size interior, which is very big. We're going to talk a little bit about the interior in this video because it has a few key differences to that other EQS I drove that I do like. But yeah, numbers wise, this is still a very big and impressive car, and costing 400,000 kroners less. This car spec is 1,157,000 kroners or something like that. It is very much cheaper than that 53 AMG 4MATIC Plus. In my opinion, the best thing about the EQS is still its interior. I mean, it's the best party trick of the whole car, and it's fun bringing passengers in this for the first time because visually it is amazing. If you're coming from a cheaper EV, you're going to be blown away by the way this looks, the way it feels, and just, the whole ambiance in here with the ambient lighting, and especially this car with the light colored interior is by far my favorite, color choice of the interior of the EQS. And another thing about this specific version of the EQS is it does not have the hyperscreen, and that is good for a few reasons. So first off, you can see the whole screen from sitting here behind the wheel. With the hyperscreen, about a third of it, a fourth of it is covered by the steering wheel. And also, it's not all covered in glass, so you're not going to get, dust and dirt and fingerprints over the whole thing. Because after a week, I, had that EQS 53 with the hyperscreen, it just collected dust and does not look good. And also, that passenger screen, in my opinion, all passenger screens are just gimmicky because, people get in there, they're like, wow, amazing. They start fiddling with it. And after 3 minutes, everybody's like, how do I turn this thing off? And you never use it again. And another complaint I have about the EQS's interior is that the dashboard is so high. But this does not have a pod over this, driver's display. So this, at least the dashboard doesn't appear because in front of you, it's not as high. So I think visibility and just, the overall feel of this interior is better than with the hyperscreen. But it's not all good, but it's not as bad as I remember it being just a month ago. And I think it has to do with price and expectations. So, hopping into a car at a certain price point, you're going to have certain expectations. And this car being 400,000 kroners, let me emphasize that, 40,000 euros less than that 53 AMG spec. This isn't as disappointing as I remember it being. It may be the light colored interior, but I think it has to do with this car being much cheaper. Yes, when you start interacting with the car and with, the switchgear, it's not as good as it should be in a car at 160,000 euros. But a car that's a little bit less than 120,000 euros, it's not as bad. I mean, it's still not as good as in my, daily driver, my Porsche Taycan Cross Turismo. But, at this price point, I'm not offended. I still wish that you could upgrade, with a leather package where you could get, nicer materials here on the steering wheel and on the dashboard, but it's not as bad here as I remember it. And also these seats, the comfort seats, are better than in that AMG I drove about a month ago. I've now driven every version of the EQS, well, except for the 450 Plus with 4MATIC, because you can get this car with all-wheel drive. But I've driven the 580 Plus, I've driven the 53 AMG Plus, I've driven all the versions. And the thing I've always come away with after driving one of these EQSs is that it's not only very big, but it's also very heavy. And you feel that, that EQS 53 AMG 4MATIC Plus, even though I was impressed by the suspension tuning, you never got away from that car was almost 2.8 tons. But when I hopped into this, I'm like, this feels lighter. This feels more nimble. It doesn't feel as heavy. It doesn't feel as ponderous as the car I drove about a month ago. So I checked the numbers, and this car is actually 200 kilos, 400 pounds lighter than that, 53 AMG Plus. And you really do feel it, because it doesn't feel as scary at speed as a 580 Plus, because that car has a lot of performance, a lot of power. But once you get going quickly, and especially, on a B road, it's not a place that car, feels at home. This, again, is no sports car, but it does feel more nimble. I don't feel the same weight in this car, and that is, a huge difference. But also, as you guys can see here up this hill, I am struggling a little bit because this is only a rear wheel drive. And, I don't mind rear wheel drive. It is fun, especially in the snow and when it's slippery, but I do prefer four wheel drive in conditions like this, because, a car's going to be more sure-footed. Going out of a roundabout or, an intersection, you're going to have much more grip. You just have to recalibrate your brain driving a car with two-wheel drive, because going out of an intersection, it's just going to take a lot more time. And also, you're more afraid that you don't want to park here or go up this road, because you're afraid you're going to get stuck. But with that being said, I think this is the best driving version because of that lack of weight and maybe less interference on, the front axle. I think this is a car, if you live in a place where you don't have, cold and snowy winters, as we do have here in Eastern Norway. So if you live in Western Norway, like Stavanger or Bergen, you're not going to have winters like you have here. And if you live, somewhere on the continent, in the UK, maybe in North America, I think the rear-wheel drive version, this 450 Plus, is actually the one to go for, because it feels lighter, it feels comfortable. It's just the best driving version of the EQS in my opinion. But something I really do like is today's sponsor, MITTDEKKHOTELL. So MITTDEKKHOTELL is a chain of stores or workshops here in Norway where they can store your winter or summer wheels. They can change from summer to winter tires. And also, if you need new winter or summer tires, they can help you out. So check the link down below, find your closest MITTDEKKHOTELL. And if you're looking to store your wheels, check them out. This is kind of a funny one, because since I recently drove the EQS 53 AMG, I went into this test week not expecting too much of a difference in the experience. And, in a lot of ways, it's very much the same experience, but I think the lower price point just, gives this car a very different perspective. Because if you go back and look at that 53 AMG review, I came away from that car, thinking it's a good car, liking the way it drove, liking, the big battery pack, the performance and stuff like that. But at the same time, it's a very expensive car, and it left me kind of a cold, because in my opinion, spending 160,000 euros on a car is not a logical choice. It's not a choice where you're like, crunching the numbers and trying to get, the most value out of your car. No. It's a pure, emotional and desirable purchase. You're buying a car at that price point because you want a car at that price point. And even though that 53 AMG, ticked a lot of boxes, being a big car, comfortable car, nice interior, performance, and all the big numbers, it's not a desirable product. But, lowering the price 400,000 kroner, so 40,000 euros, really, gives you a different perspective. And yes, this is still a lot of money, but it is a lot of car. And at this price point, 120, 130,000 euros, I do have a lot of experience because I've owned quite a few cars at this point in time at this price point. And, yes, it's still not the best looking one. I haven't talked about that in the video at all, but it doesn't look any worse than that AMG version that costs a lot more. And also, the niggles I have about the interior, at this price point, it doesn't bother me as much. And also getting, the smaller screen with the better interior kind of elevates the experience. And also, I wasn't expecting this car to be better driving than all of those other cars. So, I wasn't able to exploit the range of this car because of the winter and bad weather we've had the past few weeks. So I will be testing this car properly again when, we have milder temperatures and better conditions. So, I didn't get to experience the things I really wanted to, which was that, amazing range. But somehow still though, this is my favorite version of the EQS. And, again, if you don't need four-wheel drive, get the 450 Plus. If you live in Norway or in a cold country, you can spend about 90,000 kroner to 9,000 euros to get this car with all-wheel drive and even more performance. But you're going to take a range drop of about 100 kilometers, which, is a lot, but that car still has almost 700 kilometers of range. So guys, that was my opinion of the 450 Plus. Came away from this car actually liking it a lot more than I expected. And also, this is my favorite version of the EQS. So this is the one to go for. So guys, I really do hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, please drop me a thumbs up down below. And for more car content, as always, please subscribe. See you guys there and goodbye.